talking all that bullshit. I'ma put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another very special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but it's not limited to, the man that has won a bet off of Matt Berkey. What's poppin', Guapo?
Let's give these guys a little bit of reference.
What happened?
Yeah, Kramer had it figured out.
Hey,
We just got demonetized.
No, we didn't. Not too
Why?
quick.
Why did you
Why
not
do you
update
think
the title?
that it has-
I'll
Why
take
do you
action
hate
on it.
us?
$100.
Okay,
It's booked.
Like,
You guys can't
you-
tell.
you
Matt's
can still-
very upset right now.
well, you can still have your flex and put Shannon Shorr's name in the title so that we actually get a goddamn click on this thing instead of.
I will update. But Connie,
But
yes.
no, but you won't.
Oh,
is
here
the
we
thing?
go.
It's
just-
already
he's not-
out on socials.
He's not going to let me get my win.
You did it to yourself.
You did do it to yourself.
What's
Like, we're
the
fucking
title?
hanging on by a thread here. Who cares if we get monetized if nobody fucking clicks?
He wrote Berkey.
Play whatever you want.
Berkey loses huge bet to Guapo.
Right. And in the search terms on YouTube, let me tell you, huge has been really popular amongst
Absolutely
the poker crowd
huge.
lately.
and a couple other crowds.
I'm trying to bring in the MAGA
wave.
side.
If you could throw up a thumbnail to go with that title of just Berkey and Airball in each other's faces, I feel like that could really complement each other well. Those two things.
because who's Guapo in that scenario?
That's for the audience to decide,
Right,
really.
Okay, that's true. Well, only maybe 10% of the audience would even be able to decide since it's not an English word. But
I liked it.
of course you liked it. Jesus Christ.
Don't you love to see it, Berk?
I'm glad he got his win.
703 episodes. All right, I get one win.
By the way,
This is the win
just
games.
So we are at 702.
yeah, you also didn't update the. God damn it, Guapo!
He was too busy getting the
He's
title
so
right.
excited.
I'm so excited to have my win. You
So
know?
excited. Doesn't update the episode number. Don't worry, I'll take care of it as I do. What was I gonna say?
He's
Fuck.
drunk with success.
I was gonna say something.
He's got a big
relevant
meeting
to-
today, Jess.
I already
He's
got
got,
it.
today's the, what is he calling it? It's at 1 p.m.
Oh, you're talking about Trump?
Yeah, he's got some.
Oh, it's Liberation Day.
Liberation
Oh, yeah,
Day.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
This is
I
a
thought that was a
big day
joke.
if you're following the markets closely.
Yeah.
How exactly do you think it's going to affect the markets?
Well, because right now it's a lot of unclarity as to like what these tariffs are going to do or not do, and it sounds like maybe he's going to give some clarity to what the specifics are of these tariffs.
You would think so based on the name of the day and the fact that he's been hyping this up for a while, but I have a feeling we will still have a great lack of clarity, a dearth of clarity.
Mm. Well,
After
we know how
today,
much
we'll
markets
see.
It's
like
a great
that.
word.
It is.
Yeah, I have a few friends in Canada, and from the sounds of things, it's impacting them the most. I mean, I'm sure it's going to impact us, if I had to guess, negatively in some capacity, but they were saying like their groceries and things of that nature have basically like tripled in price. Like,
That's
yo,
insane.
I mean, we produce a lot of agriculture shit, you know. Like I don't know to what degree Canada produces their own stuff when it comes to like farming and beef and things of that nature, but it sounds as though a lot of those things have gone way up.
So Trump has walked back a lot of the tariff ideas or the things that he's thrown out there as potential tariffs that he would implement, but it does seem like something's going to happen with Canada. That seems the most clear.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because they're a great ally, man. They're just up there doing their thing.
Sometimes I feel like this happens in poker a lot to me specifically. Like I get like winner's guilt, you know, like you're on too big of an upswing and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So
I hope to experience this very soon someday.
So it's like you chalk up your fourth or fifth winning session in a row and you're upswinging way more than you could imagine. Now all of a sudden you're just kind of like, man, how bad is it going to be when shit goes. And I kind of feel to some degree that that's like what's happening with the economy, where it's like, oh man, we've been in this bull run for almost a year now.
More. I mean,
yeah,
the S&P has been crushing.
Right. So it's like, let's just fast track that recession, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's about time to cool things off a little bit. Maybe let's implement some tariffs, piss off some neighbors, see what kind of ruckus we can cause.
I do think that, and I think this is pretty much like accepted, but all of these instruments that cause this aren't the actual symptom, right? They may, like you said, like it may fast track it, but and I'm no expert on global economics, that's for sure, but it does seem like markets are going to eventually move where they're trying to move to, and some news or some policies will speed that up or slow it down, but eventually you just have to have corrections.
Yeah, I think ideally you want the corrections to naturally occur, though. You know?
Yeah, you'd prefer that.
You don't want it to be a cause of bad policy, which, again, you're right. I don't know shit about shit. I don't know that this is bad policy, but it feels like it's bad policy.
Yeah, I waver back and forth on it. I don't really know, I guess. I tend to think that implementing a bunch of tariffs out of the blue is going to, at the very least, be really rough on the American people short term.
Right.
But will it be strong long term? I have trouble trusting the long term viability of any president's plan when they're only in office for 4 years, and like the next president will probably change plans, and then it'll just fuck up what just happened.
It's okay, Jesse. It's okay. He's already said he's gonna run.
That's
for a
true.
third
Yeah,
term.
that's a good point, man.
It's fine.
He's here for.
That's
12
the real
minutes. Great.
solution.
You'll have to get him out of there with a toe tag on. Like, whether he runs again or he's Vance's VP for the next 8, like we're here to stay. This is Trump's America, baby. You know, tax the shit out of everybody. Let's fucking go.
How did we get here?
Well,
how did we get
same
here?
way we get anywhere. You know, it's a culmination of decisions. You know, you come in, you're feeling yourself a little bit, chest is out. You're like, I just won $100 bet, and then you make a title, and then you tell everybody what the title is. You say that's funny, but change it to this title, and then you just update all so that it doesn't change. And now here we are.
Yep, here we are.
Trump's America.
No, Guapo wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's true. I would have got sent back.
Don't worry, Guapo. I'll keep you here. Work visa. I would keep the podcast alive if it meant keeping
Berkey's
you
going
in
to
Vegas.
cancel the podcast and start a coyote service. And just get everybody back over.
Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes.
We're saved, Hugo. Don't worry.
Oh, no, man.
You guys great with the dogs. All right. I don't know that we got a lot on the agenda here today. I actually had a meeting today. No April Fool's joke about the future of the pod and like where I saw it going, things of that nature. I have to tell you, man, every time I have these conversations, in the moment, I feel like I have more answers than questions, but then I walk away feeling like I have more questions than answers. And I think I really understand what it lands on.
What does it land on?
And it's not, this isn't unique to us. This is everybody in the space.
Okay, go on.
There are a lot of creative types in this industry that are looking for an outlet. There are a lot of people who are passionate about the game that made it. There are a lot of people who feel like they can offer value beyond playing 2 cards in a semicircle amongst 8 of their friends. And what it leads to is a lot of passion projects, a lot of building of audiences. I would say, and this is complimentary, but Doug is like the only one that I can point to very clearly who started with a plan of business on the forefront. Like, I feel like he was the only person who his purpose never really wavered. It was always to build an audience to monetize, and he did a fantastic job of it. Like, just built one of the biggest platforms in the space, and now he has the ability to move horizontally throughout and continually leverage that platform, right? He's able to buy the lodge and utilize his platform to help build that business. He's able to now become a WPT ambassador and use his platform to help build that affiliate business, and everything in between. And a lot of it is him utilizing his creativity and basically creating an entertaining platform. For the rest of everybody else, it's always just shooting from the hip, right? It's always starting with the idea of, well, the space lacks X, and I think I could fill that void. Whether it was the early vlogging wave, which was unique, but obviously born off of the rest of YouTube, where vlogs already existed, day in the life of, or it's the training space. You're seeing Galfond really shift the way that he builds his free platforms now. For the longest time, they just didn't exist. You had no access to Galfond outside of basically being a member of Run It Once and watching his videos, maybe a little bit of social interaction. But he went down that path for like 6 months or whatever of building up his YouTube platform, building up his Twitter engagement, and doing a great job. And I think it was born off of the idea of, my businesses are suffering because I'm not investing enough in the social engagement aspect of it, right? All that's a long-winded way of saying that no matter how you get to the end point of having an established platform, having an established product, and distributing it to the crowds, monetization is drastically overlooked throughout the entire journey.
Because it's all like passion projects.
Yes, and I think it's assumed that monetization will be at the end of the tunnel, where I think like somebody like Doug had a clear end goal in mind and just started with monetization, right?
Yeah, also Galfond as well. I mean, he built Run It Once much earlier, but like his YouTube stuff is clearly a filter into, or a funnel into his.
But I think
well.
he's guilty of doing it the same way that like myself and others have, where you build the funnel after the business.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere near as effective as the way Doug did it.
Yeah, there's also a lot of things that Doug did that will build a much bigger audience, right?
Agreed. Yeah. But again, I think that was intentional, right?
Oh, of course.
And I think it was a byproduct of them growing simultaneously. So the more that he invested in the funnel, the more direct returns he had. Whereas like when you're building it after the fact, you already have a really established core to the business. So acquisition is a hurdle now, right?
Yeah.
For Doug, acquisition was like, it was the easier part, and just building a retention model now on the business side was an easier focus. I think for the majority of us, we all started with the retention aspect of like, let's build something high quality. Let's build something that keeps people engaged in our stuff. And then we'll keep funneling new eyes because the word will get out that it's good. And it just doesn't. It's like you really need to have a megaphone. And that was like what Doug did in a very genius way. He built the biggest megaphone. And at that point, you could sell ketchup popsicles, whatever. People are buying.
You would buy a ketchup popsicle for what it's worth.
That's
like the worst one to use.
Let me finish the idiom. You can sell a ketchup popsicle to somebody wearing white gloves.
Yeah. Okay.
You could sell a what?
Ketchup popsicle to a woman wearing white gloves.
Oh, a ketchup popsicle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I took for granted
my dad used to always say you could talk a dog off a meat wagon. I always liked that one.
That's strong. Yeah, that one is.
What was
strong.
that one, Jess?
You could talk a dog off a meat wagon.
He couldn't talk Bolt off shit.
Good luck.
That's not true. Bolto's good dog.
Let there be food around.
Bolto's good dog. Anyway, I say all that because in taking these meetings and stuff, a lot of them center around the actual product. Like, okay, well, what's your vision moving forward for the show? What niche need do you think it fulfills? How could you help our business grow? Like, how will this help this, that, or the other? And I always have answers for that. That's never an issue because it's like I'm a big part of, or this community has been a big part of my life. So like, I feel like I have a fair idea of like what it needs. And again, like oftentimes I lead with, I'm not positive that I'm the right person to be in front of the camera or whatever, but I think I have a reasonable idea how to move pieces, how to fill in the gaps of the people that may be right. But at the end of it, the conversations always stall because it's like, okay, well, what would get you out of bed to do this? And it's just like, man, honestly, it's not even a fair answer to you because it's like, I want back pay. It's like, I need some fruits for my labor. And I think that's where it becomes really troublesome because like even when we started this podcast, we were profitable for the first 3 years as it's drawing to a conclusion. The first 2 years we were just getting like one-off sponsorships pretty much monthly, and we were all over the place. It was so scattered. I couldn't possibly be in charge of it because I didn't know what I was doing. So I leaned on Tom at Above the Felt, and he would get an engagement from a clothing company, and then from a poker operator, and then like a tour, and it's just like all this not random stuff. It's within the space, but short-term stuff. Like we did an Underdog engagement. That one was
cool.
Great. I would have loved to have been a long-term partner with them.
Yeah.
But that was the issue, is that it was like it was paying our bills, and they were basically testing, right? But there wasn't really any long-standing relationships being formed. And so now, like at the back end of year 3, it's like, well, there's GTO Wizard. That's the number one sponsor in the industry as a whole, and of course we could lean on them to keep this thing going. But it's a big operation, so it's like, do I really want to run a show where a single headline sponsor is paying the bills for everybody that's involved minus me? So it's like, can we get enough to pay the salaries of all the parties involved, to pay the rent of whatever studio we're at, yada 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 yada, and then I get to have fun doing this? It's not that much fun.
Well, basically, we just need another sponsor, is what you're saying.
No,
another headline sponsor. We
need
need
a strategic
GTO Wizard
partner.
and
Strategery.
I don't think it's that. I think that it's the industry as a whole. Because like Conrad and I had this conversation earlier. It's like, well, what about this company? And I was like, well, they already have this person that they're paying, and what we do is not that unique. They should just pitch the idea to that person to do this instead. And, by and large across the board, I think that's the larger issue at hand is that.
Can you give me an example of that? Because I don't feel like there's many people doing what you're doing, and I don't know if that's the easiest gap to fill.
Well, there's nobody doing what we're doing, but I think that there are people that would be better at it than us.
But the question is, would they even do it? What we do? Like they would do it in a very shorter, maybe a shorter form or something along those lines.
That's not for me to figure out.
I mean, I'm not convinced that the people who would be good at good enough at podcasting or good enough at social media that they do a better job than you guys are also good at poker.
Yeah,
also
I don't know.
quite intelligent and can
Well, I think like if Doug did this exact same show, it would look very different.
Yeah, but he's not going to.
I mean, that could have been. You're right. He's not going to, but it's because it's an oversight, right? Like if this were, or maybe it's not an oversight, maybe the product's just not worth that much. But like for instance, if this product were worth a lot and WPT thought that it was a good idea to purchase a show like this, signing Doug would be a great opportunity to just leverage that and say, we'll give you 20% more to do this work. Right?
Yeah.
Now he might just say no, of course. But like, and that's only one example. There's a myriad of these examples. There are dozens upon dozens of influencers who are signed to all these different operators, and they're all being inefficiently used. Right? Everybody gets signed for their name and likeness, and it just kind of drops there.
Yes.
So most of this conversation is me just kind of highlighting that the big reason why you don't see anything outside of independent content is because the people who are willing to pay to produce are very ineffective at having any sort of vision or any sort of execution, and instead employ individuals to just do their thing. And then once that happens, everything just falls to shit. Because I'll tell you right now, like if I were 26 and you're like, early in my poker career, and an operator threw me $350,000, $400,000 a year and just said, have fun, do whatever you want, just make sure you throw the poker brand on whatever content it is that you're producing, I'm gonna put in D level work. You already got the bag.
Yeah, I think what would make the most sense to me is that you guys have some sort of affiliate deal with a poker site. Because obviously there's a aligned incentive there in terms of like how much you promote them and how much you make.
Yeah.
And how much you grow and how much you make and all that.
Early we had discussions with a couple companies about doing that. The problem is that CPAs in poker are ridiculously low. And
marrying yourself to one company with a low CPA.
Sorry, let me rephrase.
Okay, go on.
Let me rephrase. They're ridiculously low in what people are willing to pay, but they're worth a ridiculously large number because it's so saturated. So, for instance, what we were pitched on was like $1 per acquisition, and it's probably worth somewhere in the neighborhood of like 4 or 5x that.
Well, I'm talking more about like a rake-based deal.
Okay, that would be a little bit different.
Yeah, that would be like consistent income from whoever you have signed up.
Yeah, that's more like the club affiliate model.
Yeah,
that works pretty well.
Something like that would have to be like with a new site though, or it makes it worthless because everybody, our audience is more of it would be retention and like.
Perfect example though. We did have this conversation with before WPT Club WPT Gold launched. There was another club site,
Clubs Poker or something like that.
Yeah, and we had a meeting with them, and they just had like no offer. It was literally a meeting of like, would like to. This is how it always goes too. Of like, would like to use your platform in some sort of capacity to promote our thing. It's like, okay, great, let's do that. What do you have in mind? Like, what did you have in mind? It's like, you pay us. Like, you pay us, and then we'll be happy to deliver whatever deliverables you would like. And largely they're just kind of like, well, maybe we could do this, that, or the other, and it always ends up being some sort of CPA. It never ends up being
interesting
a rake back type of affiliation. And that became, from that standpoint, that was really hard because it's like, well, you're a new site, and one big thing that we stand for is integrity. It's like, I don't know anything about what's going on there. It's like, you're not that established. I don't know about security. I don't know about payout processing. I don't know about any of this stuff. I would have to get educated on all of these things about your site before I would be just willing to go to bat and say, like, everybody move your money here.
Yeah, I could count on less than one hand the number of sites I would. Maybe a half a hand. I don't know.
More sites pop up, fewer sites become redeemable.
Yeah,
it's a weird time for sure.
But hey, ACR, if you're looking for another guy, I'm just gonna keep throwing it out there. No.
That's a perfect example, though. The reason why, in spite of all of their black eyes, the reason why you're willing to do that is because they ask nothing of you. They truly don't.
Just leave me to my.
They truly don't.
Leave me to my house and my dogs.
They ask nothing of their team other than, can you guys like put out some fires when we fuck up? Like
I see a couple of them out there promoting, doing some good work.
Yeah,
it's
but
very minimal.
I think that they probably just do it on their own accord.
That may be.
I feel like Longcard just like shills harder because that's his brand and he understands that there's long-term benefit to it.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's like written in, just like I don't think it's written into Rob Kuhn's contract to be the guy who oversees all of the fires.
No, he's the guy that oversees all the X spaces. You don't see him.
That's
every
a part of like what I'm saying. Yeah, but
them?
that's like part of what I'm saying. It's like somewhere along the line, he just took the lead job of, all right, I'm going to put out all the fucking fires for the idiots that we have signed to this staff.
What I imagine is going on is that you're not wrong.
It's like there's 10 guys on the team. 8 of them laugh at that, and Rob has a fucking meltdown.
Bro, Nagy
but he's not getting paid
such
extra.
a legend, man. Oh my god. What I imagine happens over there
to be fair, he's getting paid.
It's chaotic, but essentially you don't. I don't know how did you put it? You said they're not
They don't really ask you for anything.
They're not written in their contract to do those things.
Yeah.
So I don't think so. But what happens is you get reviewed every year, and if you don't happen to do those things, or if you don't like pick up the slack yourself, you probably eventually maybe get dropped. And so
you think they do a
people
yearly
pick
review?
up the slack on their own.
You actually think they do a yearly review?
I'm being a little more official than probably how it's carried out.
I think it's more like Survivor Tribal Council, where they just have a group chat at the end of the year and they vote one member out.
Bro, it's just like 8 people wearing rags and just Nagy with the fire stick, just putting out people's torches.
Yo, we gotta get Kate out of here, bro. She's a fucking cancer, all it is. So like, all right, Ryan DePaulo has spoken. Sorry, Vanessa, your flame has been out. And they send her off, and then 3 minutes later, DePaulo's like, I gotta get this WSOP money.
I gotta get this play money, man.
They go over to DePaulo in that, what do they call that? The those side interviews.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, well,
Like
Cade's
the
the easy
confessional.
vote, but I kind of have a feeling like people are just telling me it's Cade, and then they're gonna vote me out. I like this.
Yeah.
I actually think
This might be the
ACR
right
should
way.
do this.
Yeah, this might be the right way to just run a business. To be honest.
this is unbelievable.
DePaulo's little show, whatever thing, news desk he got going on is pretty awesome.
I actually think that
Oh, I saw that clip. That was amazing.
He has 3 of them now.
Really?
Yep, and they're pretty good. Like they're just, yeah, he's an asshole and all, but it's just
no,
like
I think it's
unfiltered DePaulo.
I do think
Yeah.
it's really good. I think that something is missing from distribution. Like it's not easy enough to find, whether it's too inconsistent with release times or what have you. Maybe it's just one of those things where like he's still in the trying it out phase. But I think if they worked on like making sure that you could tune in at certain time, day of the week, whatever, on YouTube, and you're going to get the full thing there, and then utilizing like Twitter to distribute each little segment into short form, I think it's a banger. Like
It really
Yeah.
is.
he really does do a good job, and the fact that like he's unapologetically him.
Yeah.
There's always room for that kind of stuff. But really, at the end of the day, like a big reason why this stuff all fails is because there's no universal umbrella to operate under. Everybody, again, is still just like independent contractors. And, you know, maybe this operator has them today and then that one, but then none of them come with distribution platforms. So you have to create your own. And by doing so, you just have this insulated audience. And I think that becomes a little bit problematic, right? Because, you know, the one thing I learned in announcing this on Monday, and I appreciate all the comments and feedback that we got, but I was shocked at what I would consider to be the archetype of our common fan. Almost uniformly, the people that have said that they've watched from day one and will be so sad to see this go are people that either were formerly heavily involved in the poker community and have since left and felt a sense of loss or a lack of connection with that past life, and we build that bridge for them, or people who are just like dipping their toes in from the outside looking in. You know, they're in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, don't really have a lot of access to play much high level poker or much poker at all for that matter, and they are able to kind of bridge the gap from being an outsider looking in to having access now to the community at large and
To be
behind the scenes.
To be fair, I think that's just the people commenting. Like, there are so many people out there on the grind that I see all the time, always talking about the podcast.
Sure. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that they are uniformly the people that watch. I'm just saying I think by and large, like that segment of the audience, it's clear that they go underserved elsewhere.
Yeah, okay.
You know, nobody else is really fulfilling what it is that they're looking for. They're looking for a way to maintain and be a part of something without actually actively participating.
Just
You know,
so
the same way
happens-
we are with sports.
Yeah,
right?
just so happens, guy from Montana says, I feel called out.
Because I said middle of bumfuck nowhere.
Yo, I've been watching Yellowstone, man. Montana is back. Montana's back in a big way. I want to move to Montana.
You can go stay with Victoria. She's got a place up there.
Really?
Yeah.
I might do
I
that.
think she's like relatively close to Big Sky. I really, really want to go to Big Sky.
I bet you Victoria secretly has a dope spot up there.
She probably has like fucking 50 acres. What are
Yeah.
we talking about?
She posted pictures on the internet. She looks like she has a very, very, very large yard.
Yeah.
Like when I
Right.
mean large yard, I'm talking about a plantation.
Those are in the South.
Victoria
And
is
definitely not
Did you
the
say
reference.
plantation?
Yeah, he did. He did.
I couldn't think of a word to describe the large, a billion acres, but yeah.
Right.
You know.
that was the
yeah,
only one that came to mind, huh?
That was
That was
the
it.
only one.
all you can think about. But yeah, addressing something in the chat, ASG said, but are people actually signing up for coin poker because Ryan makes funny videos? I think that's the real crux of the conversation is, what do influencers actually accomplish? And across the board, it's going to be very different. Like, I think a guy like Doug is incredible at acquisition, right? Like that's because that's the platform he built. Everything about what he's done from day one is an acquisition model. So if you're a new site like WPT Gold, Club WPT Gold, it makes sense to utilize him to acquire new membership, right? He has YouTube cornered. It's going to be great. And by and large, they have YouTube cornered. Between him, Brad, and Rampage, what corner of YouTube poker isn't being touched?
Yeah, Wolfgang.
No,
as well.
absolutely.
Yeah, Wolf Gaming as well. Like, who are you missing? You're getting guys from the shorts, you're getting guys from the long form, you're getting guys from the vlogs, etc. So that all makes sense. When you look at a lot of the other ambassadors, they're more for clout, right? They're more for retention in the sense that, well, Daniel Negron, maybe Daniel's not the best example because he's so big. Like, he might just be good at everything. But Fedor is a great example. Fedor's not acquiring new users ever. No offense. That's no slight against Fedor. But Fedor's reputation and his standing in the community, when he partners with GG, that's a stamp of approval that now GG can leverage as almost like clout, almost like a reputation builder.
Credibility.
Yeah. That's what GG did so well in their growth model over the last few years is, they have a lot of fucking stains that kind of quietly went away. And it was largely due to the fact that some of the biggest, most reputable, most high integrity individuals were attached to their site. They randomly just built a council, which quietly disbanded and nobody really knew about. But they had this integrity council built at the peak of our concerns of poker security, especially online. They gave a face to it with Kuhn and Fedor, these guys that are just known for high integrity and being very reputable. And that by and large got them over a really otherwise rough patch for online poker, and most of the other sites just kind of stayed quiet. To no fault of their own. It wasn't like it was happening on their site, at least not publicly. It was up to GG to kind of make things disappear. And then ACR kind of just went a different route. And they said, like, we're just going to be fully transparent. We're going to communicate with the community. We're going to, work with everybody and try to make this all better. We're going to be issuing tons of, and, then just never executed. But time heals all wounds. It's like we're 2 years removed from them having a $10 million bot scandal, and people were just like, "Yeah, that's ACR, man." Like,
are we removed?
I mean, from the big one that broke, I think that was December of 23.
Well, the story broke then, right? But
Yeah.
Do we know that those bots are off of poker sites?
No.
I would venture to guess they're very much on a bunch of poker sites.
Yes.
So, I mean,
so
you get 100 accounts pop up from Kazakhstan in a week. You kind of
to give you some insight,
start asking some questions.
to give you some insight, there's this guy Tyler. He's brilliant. He was the one who mostly blew the whistle on this bot ring, and that ring was taking place for many years. Tyler's he's a very communicative individual. He's in like all the discords, very open about this stuff. He's always talking with the players, and this is big credit to guys like Pads and a lot of the other high stake guys who have this small insulated community in order to kind of like be the Batman of online poker, so to speak. Like they're just quietly moving in the shadows, ensuring that like this isn't reaching a large scale. From my understanding, Tyler has been in communication with all of the major sites where these bots have been found. And at least to some degree, whether it's as a third party, like independent contractor or something more, he's done a little bit of work with some of them. I don't want to speak to specifics because it's been a long time since I remember reading the follow-up stuff, but I think at least at some point he was working with some of the teams to ensure or to help them detect. And by and large, I think across the board, it was assumed that the bot problem at least decreased. I don't know that it's ever going to go away. And the fact that like nothing publicly has really arisen in the last 6 to 10 months makes me think that they're doing a better job of detection. But, you know, it doesn't really change the fact that there wasn't major refunds issued. The original estimate was roughly 10 million was accumulated by these bots, and there was never an announcement of how much money was refunded, but I don't know anybody who got a significant chunk back.
No, me neither.
A few $100 here and there.
I know people who put in a lot of volume.
Yeah. And in that high stakes Discord, I think like, you know, they were sharing like what they were refunded. I want to say like one of the biggest refunds was maybe like 2K. I could be off. Somebody might have got like 10 or 20 that I'm just, you know, not remembering or I didn't actually read. But by and large, like, and there hasn't been any public statements of like, oh, ACR did right by me. You know, they gave me big 5-figure check because of the acknowledged bot problem in the past. I think for the most part, a lot of these operators just have a very different mindset than what PokerStars has carried for many, many years. PokerStars tries to right wrongs that had happened in the past and came forward. I feel like the new brand of poker sites is acknowledge and move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's never to reimburse.
Well, look at the Players Council thing.
Right.
Nothing came from
Nothing.
it, but it looked nice for a moment.
Yeah, it didn't even get anybody banned from WSOP at the time. Right? And
yeah,
you know, there was a partnership there at least between GG and WSOP. And
I'm not even really hating on GG for that. Like, at least they tried.
Right.
I just mean that not a lot comes out of these things quite often.
There's a little bit of room to hate whenever it's theatrics.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like kind of like the wands at HCL. When we're pointing out like very nuanced security issues and they're like, don't worry, boys, we're bringing wands. Everything's fine.
That's what this show needs. You guys got to bring back the
wands?
No, the rivalry with HCL. Rivalry is the wrong word. The hatred between you two. That was quite good.
Really quick, Matt. I think about Randy Liu too. Remember when they brought on Randy on ACR to be in charge of all their security?
Yeah,
and that lasted.
Wait,
like
ACR had Randy?
a couple weeks, maybe
no,
a couple
no.
months.
It was,
he was
like
there
years.
Randy was?
Yes,
Yeah.
this was never
He was
talked
just-
about.
No offense to Randy, but he just did a bad job.
Oh wow.
It was funny because like
He
there was
was-
plenty of comments of saying
I just figured he'd
There's
bounced
so
like
many-
after a few weeks or a few months.
He bounced during the bot thing. Like once that broke, he was just kind of like, look, I'm done. And again, like this might be no fault of Randy. Who knows like what he was overseeing and what he even had oversight on. But both he and Elke with GG they're both a part of this high stakes Discord that I'm talking about, and they were very non-communicative. They would make promises to like address things or come back to things and then just ghost. It's just a bad look. It's like, you know, I think that we have this expectation that if somebody is hired from within, and by within we mean a former player or current player being hired, then they're going to have the best interest of the community in mind, and they're not going to become a corporate shill all of a sudden and just kind of become a suit whenever it comes to their new job status. But by and large, that has proven to not be the case. You know, I don't know how accessible Fedor is. I know that like when they first launched into private high stakes on GG, he came out into that Discord and said, I won't play. Like, I'm with you guys. This is not good for the long-term ecosystem of the game, yada, yada, yada. And then 2 days later, he was like open sitting, and then just stopped talking in the group. You know, so it's like, look, I get it, man. There's pressure from all sides. It really does come down to which master do you want to obey? Do you want to be a man of the people, or do you want to be a man of the company? And very rarely is there much room to be both. And, you know, from my standpoint, I think that that's probably a big reason why so many people remain independent. Because, like, you can't get a big enough bag to really encourage selling out if you've made it, if you have a reputation, if you, like, nobody's going to offer Galfond a big enough bag to just be a company man. He's always going to be a man of the people.
If they were, they would have done it 10 years ago, and they tried to, and it didn't work. So
yeah,
it's not going to happen now.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
very fair point.
And I know people approached him 10 or 15 years ago.
I'm sure of it.
And he showered them all.
Yeah. And rightfully so. He was betting on himself. You know, he was betting he could build a bigger operation than and a better one for that matter.
And even before he had dreams of building a poker site, I think he just didn't really want to be tethered to someone while he's making more money than he needs in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, he crushed poker. He didn't really need to feel like guilty that people got scammed by some site that he decided to back when he doesn't know everything about the, you know.
Yeah, the ins and outs.
It's an interesting dilemma. I don't have Phil success in any realm in this space, but I have some.
Well, I've been to your house. You got a slide between floors, don't you?
I could make one. What I was getting at though is I have some fraction thereof, right? Like whether I'm 10% or 80% as successful as him is debatable. But point is that I've made a lot of money in the space, and it's an interesting dilemma because just like a professional athlete, you recognize that there's an expiration, right? The difference is that as a professional athlete, you can map it to the most optimistic point, right? So like when you're a rookie in the league, you can know that the average career of your position is like 3.5 years. And you can now weigh yourself against the average population, right? And you could say like, well, I think I'm elite, so I think I'm going to have a 10-year career, right? Or I think I'm the greatest to ever do it, so I'm going to have a 15-year career, whatever. But point is that it's very easy to recognize where the ceiling and the floors are, right? So I could be out of the league tomorrow. I could make it till I'm 41, but like the likelihood of anything going past that is an outlier to who knows what degree. And you can also put dollar amounts to that. It's like, well, I could make a couple million in my career. I could make a couple $100 million in my career. And if I'm a super extreme outlier, like a Brady or a LeBron or whatever, I might make $1 billion. Point is that by being able to do all of that, you have a fair idea of like how much scarcity you should be approaching your career with. And at what point you kind of hit the tipping point where it's like, okay, I don't really ever have to want for anything ever again. And now I'm just free to do as I wish. From a poker player's standpoint, like, and I'm going to speak from somebody who came from nothing, the bar is really low to feel financial freedom, I think, from a human perspective. But from a player's perspective, it's so high because you're in action. And at any point, you can just ruin yourself if you're not careful. On top of that, you may be able to map your earning potential relatively accurately, but it's not as simple as just saying like, okay, well, I'm 26 now. I think I can make it to 40, 41. But at that point, like, are we really going to be able to still do that? Well, there's nothing physically hindering you. You're not in some sort of sharp mental decline at that point. You know what I mean? So it's easy to be optimistic and say, I could play till I'm 80. But the reality is nobody is going to be playing for a living till they're 80. And if they are, they're going to have a very poor life, you know? No offense to anyone who's trying to do it.
There are a few exceptions to the rule. When I think of playing poker later on in life, because I never really planned to be in poker forever. I just enjoyed the game a lot and it treated me well. And so I played for longer than I expected to. And I've always had fun with it. But I do think about guys like Seidel who have just somehow performed at the peak of the game well into like years that we didn't think our mental capabilities would hold up. And it is interesting how, like, I think what you're saying is
I don't think it's a
important.
lack of mental capabilities. I think it's a lack of incentive.
Oh, fair enough.
Right? Because it's like either you've made enough money. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that as you start to cross mid 40s, early 50s, mid 50s, 60s, whatever, either your earning potential is going to be in sharp decline, and now you're working because you need to in order to fill the gap of what you're spending and what you're earning, or if your earning potential remains relatively high, you've accumulated enough money where there's no incentive to do it.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's no incentive. Like, for instance, if an athlete could continue to compete at the highest level into their 50s, I think a lot of them would, because they love the game.
That's true.
And so, I mean, we're kind of like a weird hybrid between a sport and a recreational activity. And so that's why you have billionaires who just do this for fun.
I guess that's where I was coming from with the incentive standpoint, is that there's still so much risk.
I cannot tell you how badly I want to just like have one of these like really out there investments that I've put some money into. Just get there so I can show up to the Bellagio and be the fish finally.
Right.
I cannot wait to run a terrible bluff against Matt Moore. And he just folds because he's like, if you're bluffing in this line, like, you're terrible. And then I just wing it over, and I'm like, I'm the fish now.
Buddy, I got to tell you don't got to be that rich to play this way. Yes. But what you're talking about is being able to play risk-free. And that is something totally different, because now it is just your motives to play aren't money-driven, right? What I'm speaking to, though, is actually playing for a living. The vast majority of people, I think, Seidel might be like one of the lone exceptions. And again, I don't know his financial status, but
he is a true outlier.
Yeah. Like D-Negs is a great example of what you're saying. He has enough money where he never has to play again. But he chooses to play because he fucking loves it.
And quite frequently, too.
Yeah, and he has a legacy that he wants to build upon. And I think all of that is very honorable. And like, this is who he is. This is the life that he's created. This is the persona that he wants to be. And all of that makes perfect sense. What I'm more so speaking to is, and I guess we're framing it in the high stakes community, but that's only a byproduct of, if you're still playing when you're 50, you can't be humping the 5-10 games. Like you're just, there's got to be something better.
It's 2025, Berkey. You can hump whatever you want.
Right, that's right. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, people who are playing like later into life, like, I'll probably still be pursuing this into my 50s, but it's because I play so big with so much of myself at risk that I never feel a sense of security in the financial way. So I just keep recreating the rat trap for myself, where it's like, if I keep pressing and playing larger stakes, then I'll feel financial pressure, which will then force me to play more hours, which will then keep me on the grind, right? And all of it's just feeding a competitive burn inside of me of, if this all went away tomorrow, I don't know what the fuck I would do. But it's also built off of the fact that, like, when I compare myself to Phil, it's like, Phil's probably made enough money where he doesn't have to do anything moving forward. I haven't. Like, if I stopped playing poker immediately tomorrow, forever, and I didn't look for any other source of earning, like, I'm 43, I can't go the rest of my life without earning another $1. So that weighs on me as well. Like, and that drives me to want to do more within the space. I
would keep in mind that your perspective is extremely unique, because there's very few people who could manage playing the stakes that you play on the roll that you have, and keeping their sanity and mental game together. I know that I'm not saying you're being irresponsible. I'm just saying, like, you swing pretty hard for your net worth. And I know, like, I personally, as I've gotten older, like, wouldn't be able to handle those swings to my net worth based on that. Although I guess I swing in markets like a good bit, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think you're unique in that way.
I would push back a little bit in the sense that I think it's relative, right? So if for example you were a 510 grinder who was coming up, and somebody said you have $350,000 in your bankroll, would you feel pretty well rolled for those stakes?
510?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say yes.
Right. So it's like when you're playing 100 and you have like a comparable amount liquid, but it's uncapped. And
We're doing the math on this right now.
I understand. You're
trying to be coy about it, but we're
No,
all like,
all
all
right.
right, so he's got $3.5 million.
I'm just giving it for instance, right? It's like,
It's the uncapped part that makes it scary.
yeah, because my standard deviation is not 150 big blinds every 100 hands.
So you've got like $6 million.
No, that's where your
above.
point comes into play, where it's like I'm risking a lot more. My standard deviation might be like closer to 500 big blinds per 100.
Yeah, but I'd also argue that if your life expenses are pretty low, you don't need $350,000 to play 510. I think you
Precisely.
need like 150 or 100
Agreed.
to play live 510.
Right, agreed. And I would say the same. I would say that's the biggest difference, is that where it's easy to be very aggressive early in your career when you're at those stakes trying to build up.
Mm-hmm.
The natural progression is to de-risk as you get higher and higher and higher.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is, like, if I had $1 million and had a 100 game to play every single day, I would very comfortably keep 100% of myself, because I think that now I would de-risk on the way down if I had to. If I went on a $500,000 downswing, I would start to sell accordingly.
Yes, and you have confidence in yourself to do those things and to move down and like build it back up, which I also think is not unique in the poker world, but it's more unique than you would think. A lot of people, they take a big shot, they lose a huge chunk of their roll or their net worth, and there's a long break after that because there's like a level of devastation. Whereas like I've noticed in the past, you have just said, all right, I'm going to grind 510 for 3 weeks. And that's
Right. And in this instance, there are no smaller stakes.
Yeah.
So you just take less. Right.
yeah, that's
If
fair
you sell
too.
half, you're not playing 25-50.
Yeah, there's not really many 25-50 games.
Right. And it's not like, oftentimes the reason to move down is because the stakes that you're playing offer a lower win rate.
Mm-hmm.
At least in your current state.
You mean a higher win rate?
Sorry,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
The current stake offers a lower win rate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If whether it's your bankroll issue or whatever, but something is hurting your win rate, staying there. Or the other alternative is that, like, it was always just a notion back in the day because you had such a linear progression available to you. You could just keep 100% of yourself at a smaller stake, which may offer a higher win rate, et cetera, et cetera. But now it's just about risk and de-risk, right? So like now it's like, okay, well, if I have the roll to play 25-50, then that's what I'll sell for. If I have the roll to play 10-25, that's what I'll sell for. And I do this a lot with horses, like we were talking yesterday, where we create this business model, right? Additionally, on top of that, games sometimes get big. So I become an outside investor now who's buying action from the stable itself, right? So if the ABI, if the average stake that the current horse is meant to be playing, where the stake takes 100% of it, is 100, but a game pops up that's 1-2-4, well, then we need to sell like half or 2/3, and like, if I don't want to buy it, then we shop it around. But almost always it's going to be a situation where, like, I as the backer think this is obviously a good spot. So additionally, just getting to take on a lot of short-term risk for a lot of short-term reward seems very beneficial at face. You're just, getting a good deal at that point.
Which brings us back to what we were talking about yesterday, that the backing model is terrible because you're happy to buy the action at face rather than just keep it on stake.
No.
Which is very clearly the play.
No. The reason you don't want to keep it on stake is because you don't want to ruin the horse.
Yeah.
Not because the model is broken, but because the business itself is set under certain parameters.
Well, it is just better to buy their action at face at any given time.
Yeah, of course. I'm making out in that instance, but
Yeah.
their incentive to sell is also very high because they're managing the roll, right? So if they have the bankroll for 100, let's say they're operating with like, 500K, and now a 1-2-4 game pops up. It's like, well, even just for a one-off, you don't have enough money. So you should de-risk here. But the spot's so good, you don't want to just pass on the game, right? So it's the ability to shot take. Just like it would be in the real world if you had 100% of yourself, right? Like if you have 100% of yourself, it always behooves you to just keep it than it does to sell it. You don't get anything by lessening your piece at face, but you do get a lot of security.
Yeah.
Which I think matters.
How do we get back into staking?
I don't know. This was a really long trip around the globe. I think we started with the incentives of the podcast.
I think I'm gonna start staking Shannon.
We went through all of the operators, and now we're back to staking. We're just talking about general poker ecosystem here, but we do got to give a little bit of love to Shannon Shorr.
I can't believe you won the circuit, man. That's
I
wild.
can't believe this is his first live.
I can't believe that you guys didn't think he was going to go coast to coast. What he does, man. Let's watch this interview.
A lot of hours spent inside these World Series venues trying to capture one, and here we are. What was that, day two, I guess? After having played all 3 starting flights trying to bag this thing, things just went terribly. I was getting roughed up, and then I got a big bluff through versus Spanish regular on the bubble. That was big for the momentum, and it's nice to play like with lots of different player types, because a lot of times when I'm playing in the studio or playing online, I'm playing a very specific style of kind of GTO type poker. So I really like playing these type of events because you have to think outside the box and really try to figure out these people that you've never seen before. It's one of the cool things about live poker is you just have to figure stuff out like very quick. You may only see like one showdown here or there, and that will give you a glimpse into like how a certain player is thinking. That's why I always stress to players like that you really need to pay attention, particularly if you don't know people at the table. Definitely one of the highlights of my career. I really enjoyed myself. A lot of hours spent
I don't think
inside
people are going to really remember this, but you may. There was a period of time, I want to say it was like 2019, maybe just before COVID, where Shannon kind of like publicly came out and said like, I need to rework everything. I've been on a pretty terrible downswing. Poker's always come relatively easy to me. My passion for the game hasn't changed, but my results have. And it's just high time to get with the modern wave and just, really fucking crank on this thing. And I don't remember what inspired him to do that. I don't remember why it was even public. It could have just been something he quietly did on his own. But for whatever reason, I do very vividly remember that being a part of the public conversation. And he has just done nothing but smash since.
He is a smasher.
As a goat.
It's so...
He is unbelievable.
I think he is a good testament to what we were previously talking about with Seidel specifically, about how important it is for staying power to be able to adapt, adjust, reinvent yourself time and time again, and not just rest on your laurels of like what used to work. People will just very quickly forget that there was a point in time where, this wasn't coming easy to him, that he was downswinging, that he actively sought out improvement and has done nothing but punish since. It's really nice to see a little bit of that reward being attached to hard work, because especially in this space, that's not always the case.
And by hard work, you mean having children for the baby run good, right? Because he has had like 2 or 3 kids in between this time.
He definitely has at least one kid for sure.
He's on 2. I ran
It
into
is.
him at Earth Cafe with the family the other day.
Okay.
They got the 2.
Okay. So yes, definitely can confirm that there is some baby run good here.
He's just working out the skills that really are needed to make it in this game.
Right. Whenever I said that he took some time away to sharpen his skills, I meant build a family. He went with the Jesse Lonis model. Of poker training. So yeah, I mean, it's it's inspiring from my perspective because as somebody who's a dinosaur in this game, it's nice to see that if you put a little bit of hard work in and put your mind to something, you still can have results. And I think it's like really important to just say like, that's not always the case, man. A lot of times that's somebody's death note whenever they're like, you know, I've been struggling. I really got to reinvent I can't tell you how many dozens of professionals we've seen make those sweeping statements of like, now's the time. Now's when I'm going to really put my nose to the grindstone. I'm going to relearn everything. And you just never hear from them again.
Because it's hard to relearn everything. And it's hard to put into time. It's hard to find the time for many on the grind to, you know, take the time to relearn everything. And
It is tough.
like,
I'm actually currently trying to learn how to type again. I'm still doing the you know,
one finger at a time.
Yeah.
that's our
So I'm
grandpa.
taking a little
Don't-
class online.
don't
That
worry.
coffee cup is really coming true, huh, buddy?
Don't worry, I can still type with 2 fingers and was able to change the title on Twitter.
Thanks, buddy. I did notice that.
We're in good shape.
Doing great over here.
Shannon's had such a long, rich career. It's kind of crazy. I remember in 2013 or 2014, they came out with a like top 10 best poker players of the last 10 years, based on tournaments. And he was in there. And I remember being like, yeah, like he's a guy I know, like he's done well, but I had no idea. And I went through his Hendem. I was like, wow, he won this and he final tabled this. And it's just like, there's a couple guys like Shannon that have just hit every single thing that you wish you final tabled in your career.
Yeah.
And he did it pretty early on. It's really cool. And he's one of the nicest, like most wholesome dudes in poker as well. So
Yeah,
Did
for
he
sure.
recently just win his first bracelet? I think he won an online 5K, if I'm not mistaken.
well, let's check it out.
Yeah, you could probably just sort here for place and see.
You can just hit place on the red right there.
I wish you guys could see Guapo's face right
there
now.
we go. Now scroll down.
I mean, this is a man who is deep in concentration. So yeah, you can just
He won
keep
the
scrolling.
Bellagio Cup in 2006.
That's so long ago.
That was 19 years
That
ago.
was-
He's still smashing tournaments.
But like that will spark a career. Like when you just
Oh,
rip
yeah.
$1 million off year 1, year 2, whatever, that really puts you in line to have a long-standing career. You can scroll pretty fast. You'll see if it's a World Series event or not. There you go. So there's one. That's a ring event. Oh, so he doesn't have a bracelet yet.
wow.
He actually, like, this is another really key thing to point out. Oh, it was a WSOP online circuit event he won. But this is a key thing to point out. Oh, there it is. There it is. Event 27. He won a 1K freeze out online bracelet. I'm not losing my mind. Man, brutal to only get 35K for your first bracelet. May as well have been a flip and go.
Sometimes it'd be like, well, flip and go, you can be in for 56,000.
That's true. That's true. But this is an important thing to point out. So Shannon's been playing for 20 years, give or take. Scroll up a little bit.
By up, you mean
Yeah.
this way?
Yeah. So he has like at most a little bit further. A little bit further. At most like 20, 25 first place finishes. At most, right? So like
Yeah.
let's say like one a year. He wins one tournament a year on average.
But to be fair to him, I don't think he's been playing that many high rollers for that long. So the only people you see who have more first place than him will be playing these fields that are 30 players.
That wasn't even meant to be a slight.
No, I know. I'm
was
just
trying
saying,
to point
like,
out,
it's actually impressive that he has 25 because he's mostly
Yeah.
been playing like 1,000-player fields.
that's why I think guys like Alti and Elias and
Oh, those guys are insane.
yeah, it's like what they do is fucking ridiculous.
Alti's
Like,
won Florida like 2 times, and I think there's always like 1,200 people in that
Yeah.
tournament. It's crazy.
even
it's
even
absurd.
like Lonis and Bing Wang to a certain degree, like these guys put up numbers in like really large fields. But it's really important thing to point out because I think that at least for the last 20 years, the narrative was like play for the win, you know, and there was such an onus of if you were a professional, then you won tournaments. You didn't just cash them. You know, the Chino Reams of the world come to mind. Like the guy, the OGs, where you just felt like they were always on the podium and more often than not in the winner's circle, right? But that's not the way that MTTs really work. It's like all the money is up top, yes, but it's like the top 3 to 5 places. So it really comes down to like how many podium finishes do you have in your career? And we don't have time to scroll through his Hendon, but I bet it's a hell of a lot. and there are probably a lot of incredibly good professionals that have very few wins. A lot of seconds and thirds.
Do you know the main reason why I hired Vanessa to be my coach for the final table main event final table? I went through her Hendon mob, and she had a 50% win rate when she made a final table.
Wow, that's fucking strong.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she makes final tables with chip lead a lot. She's
But you also had
animal
chip
but
lead.
Yeah, I had chip lead, so it seemed to go quite well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that number still holds up because that was years earlier in her career, but the only other person I saw that with was Phil Ivey. I believe he had something like half of his.
And a lot of his are mixed events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really important thing to understand when it comes to the volatility of being an MTT pro. It's like, it doesn't matter how often you win necessarily. It matters like what your average place finish is at the final table. Like, not patting myself on the back at all, but I have like no wins. I don't think I've ever won a tournament outright, but I also have like almost no eighths and ninths. It's a lot of seconds to fifths, and that's at least gonna make sure that you're profiting.
Second to fifth is very respectable. You just don't want to have a lot of sevenths or eighths. That sounds like you limped into the final table. Obviously, things can go wrong, but
sure.
If you find yourself constantly limping into the final table with like 10 big blinds, something is probably amiss in your poker game.
Yeah, and it becomes worse too if you're not limping in and you're often getting. So all those first place, I've chopped every one of them. Legitimately every single one of them. Except even the voices carry, we did a saver. And that was the 6 max. So it's like not even a real fucking win. So yeah, I've never won a tournament outright live.
You chopped that $225 up there?
I did.
Let's go.
I did get first place money though. I was paid $3,400.
Oh, you got the sweet chop, huh?
I said, guys, I have 66% of the chips in play. Why don't we just end this thing? It's late. You guys can figure it out between second and third. I'll just take first place money.
That was a famous the Jovial Gent chop. No, not Jovial Gent. That was what was the guy who disappeared from poker. There was a kid back in the day when we were all coming
JJ
up in
Prodigy?
online. No, he got like he final table bubbled the main the year that sorry, I'm completely spacing out. Anyway, somebody chopped the Sunday Million on PokerStars back in the day when we were all coming up in online poker. Got more than first place money. Oh, Stealthmunk.
Oh, he didn't. Oh yeah, he
and
did
then famously, his mom found out he was playing poker and took it all away from him.
Nice.
Jesus.
And that was
I wonder what the
I
lore
remember
of
when he had that
Stealthmunk
little run
is.
in the main, and he kind of upset some people by some of the things he was doing at the table.
Yeah, he was wilding out during that, but Joe put an end to that pretty harshly with the set over set.
Yeah, I knew him.
He was actually Stealthmunk was mashing faces en route to getting cooler by Joe. Some of those hands were pretty savage.
He was out there. I knew him way back when he was 18 from Turning Stone. Him and I don't know if you remember the name Action Jeff.
Oh yeah.
So
I remember he played like 200, 400 for a while on
there was so much lore behind like these guys. Like this kid was 18 and like people were saying that he just like randomly started juicing when he showed up to Turning Stone because he came,
did
like,
get
all
really
yoked.
jacked out of nowhere. Yeah.
But the Stealthmunk, do you remember Yellow Sub?
Oh yeah,
Jeff.
He's a legend.
There was a video like 2006 that they filmed where Stealthmunk went and visited him in college.
Oh, and he hammers like a fifth of whiskey.
Yeah, like just gets there and pounds like a fifth of vodka or something like that.
Well, hold on. He shows up. He's like 16 years old. He shows up in a limo.
Right.
Just hammers a fifth of whiskey and then makes a mess.
And then Jeff is like playing drunk 25-50 PLO or something like that on Full Tilt. I don't remember, but yeah, man, the legends of the early days were serious lore. But Stealth fell off. Like he had a seemingly rough life between his 20s and 30s. Don't know to what degree. I don't really want to speculate. But like he was in rough shape whenever he made that deep run in the main. He had been like, kind of out of action for many years or just kind of playing very small stakes whenever he could get put in. So goes the way of many players and legends throughout the course of time in this game.
Yeah.
People really underestimate staying power, I think.
Yeah, he had a lot of demons outside of the poker world, I think, that caused some harm to his career.
Yeah, I think that like people believe staying power is just a byproduct of generating wealth in this space, but it's not just generating, it's generating wealth, holding on to it, and then still being able to accumulate, right? That's a big parlay. A lot of people accumulated very, very, very early wealth in this space, in crypto, whatever, but they lived lavish, they lived fast, they lived loose, and they found themselves on the back end of, a bender gone wrong, starting back from scratch, where the game has gotten tougher. They're not as sharp or as hungry as they used to be, and a million things just kind of vying against them. So I think when you see a guy who's like been at it for decades, like Shannon, continually shows up, is continually playing bigger and bigger, but isn't afraid to grind. That was a 1,700 that you just showed up to. But also 200,000 up top. No joke. You go play a random WSOP circuit main event in the middle of Poughkeepsie. Where's that? New Jersey?
No, that's New York.
It's somewhere.
New York? I don't fucking know. Bad example. Wichita? Is that a thing? That's in Kansas?
That is in Kansas.
Okay, yeah. You go play a random circuit main event there, 80K up top.
I don't think so. I think these middle of Americas get like at least 170.
Yeah, they get big numbers.
They get
man.
big numbers. These people love fucking tournament poker, man. That's
I would
one thing
I would assume sight unseen that this is the biggest main event on the circuit.
Hell no.
Where?
Absolutely not. Cherokee might be up to 2x.
No. Maurice just won Cherokee, didn't he?
How much?
170.
I think Florida gets some big numbers.
Was that somewhere else? Where he misread the board.
That was Cherokee, but
no, it might have been Baltimore.
Oh yeah, it was Baltimore. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, like these places get some pretty big fucking numbers. I will say. I want to say. All right, so he won Baltimore for 140.
Okay.
And to be fair, that's like the first one I've ever seen in Baltimore. I think that was like their first circuit, whatever. But like a middle America gets pretty high numbers. Like Cherokee's huge. Choctaw's huge.
Choctaw I would expect to be big.
Florida's got to be big, right?
Florida doesn't have a circuit event, do they?
They must.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Where?
Yes, they do. They have Pompano.
Yeah,
Pompano.
but like Pompano's not going to draw the same numbers as like Hard Rock.
Pompano sounds like a place you go to play backgammon.
Pompano's small.
I mean, it's only,
Pompano can't host the way that
it's only
Florida
3 miles north of Hard Rock.
What's this?
This is Cherokee.
What was first?
1700
This year?
The 1700 main event.
Billy Kopp?
2024.
Wait, is
Let's go.
that a new Billy Kopp? That can't be the OG Billy Kopp.
Sorry, that is William the Cop.
Can you Hendon him? I'm very interested now.
What was first?
Okay, so this is not the same Billy Kopp.
It's not.
That was 320, so you're right. That was way, way, way bigger than I would have guessed.
Yeah, like a lot of these places get pretty huge, man. Like,
Yeah. Wow, there's 2 Billy Kopps.
Yeah, that's actually really that's a bit surprising.
If you guys want to know who I'm referencing, Billy Kopp was a big online grinder back in the day, and if you need a memorable hand of him, he got flush over flushed by Darvin Moon with 2 tables left in the main event, where I think he had 5-4 of hearts, and Darvin had like Queen Jack of hearts or something to that effect. Darvin went for it and either check jammed river or just like set Billy all in some sort of capacity. And at the time, in 2006, is that when who did he play heads up? No, he played Kata, so 2009.
Yeah, I was later.
So yeah, 2009. At the time, it was just like, you have to fold. Like, that was just all the conversation. Now, I think, like, us knowing what we know about poker, it's like, well, maybe not. Oh, okay, it was diamond, sorry.
I mean, I would still 100,000% fold, by the way.
Against Darvin? Yeah,
the board is paired
man.
against anybody who's just
he
casually
went
being
all
like,
in.
I'm all in.
He went all in.
Oh.
Billy jammed.
Okay, fair enough.
No, that's worse.
No, I mean, people call light. They just don't put it in that light in the main event.
Well, I think he jammed over a bet.
Oh.
For what it's worth, Burke, I would say that 200 is probably on the low side of average.
No way.
Yeah. They're like, if you look at around, Commerce is like it was like 300 last year.
That's different. That's the
Sure,
main.
okay.
That's attached to the TOC. Obviously, everybody's there for that.
Yes, but like there was just like there's big numbers.
Okay, well,
A lot of these places.
Instead of us arguing, because I don't think that's true.
Okay, let's go. All right. Oh, Pompano.
Just prove me
was
wrong.
Pompano was 190,
Okay.
193. So like, the numbers get there. Is what my point is saying. Like,
Okay, yeah, that's fair. If you want to state the case at like 2 to 250 is like pretty reasonable expectation, and then there are some outliers, like okay, fine, I backtrack.
Yeah,
but if you're
Indiana
trying to
was
say
like,
200's the low end, like we just saw one that was 130.
I mean, that was a first time event there. Like Indiana was 180. I want to say.
Okay.
185.
Okay.
Okay.
You know your words have meaning.
Okay, but if you think about it, Commerce is 300. Like a lot of places, like it's 300K. So I would say 200 is on the low side.
Where are these places? Cherokee and Commerce.
Cherokee, Commerce. Hold on one second.
I don't want to do this.
All right, well then we don't have to.
Just prove me wrong,
I'm
and
looking.
that's fine. But
There's so many places to look.
I don't want to explain like why you're both right and wrong at the same time.
There's so many places to look, man.
It's like, yes, you're right. I was lowballing it. You were very correct on that.
You just said it was the high side, and it's just definitely
That's
not.
what I'm saying. I was lowballing it.
Yeah.
You're correct, but your statement thereafter of like 200s on the low side is definitely not right. You just named like 3 stops where it's less than 200. It can't be on the low side. There's only so many events, man.
Low side of the average.
I think.
Do you know how averages work?
280 for Turning Stone.
Wow, that's crazy.
I'm just, I'll just give me a second. I'll just go through things.
I wonder what the last. There has to be a period of time at Turning Stone's history where like there just wasn't an event that first place was over like 30 or 40K. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just like, but like I remember Turning Stone when we were coming up and it was booming. I mean, it was like the breeding ground of poker talent.
That's because it was when you were coming up. It was 18 and older.
It was 18 and over,
and everybody was fucking using their parents' name online.
Yeah, online was booming, and it was 18 and over. The early boom really attracted that young age group, and you could live like a fucking king at Turning Stone. It was like $99 a night for a suite. It was fucking amazing. The candy bars in the mini fridge were actually like on par with buying them from a convenience store. It was like $1.50, not fucking $6. So you could really live like a king there, and it just, man, it was booming. Then AC started like once the Brigada was built and they got their new room, which I want to say they got their new room in like 2009-ish, 2010. But I think they opened the old room that was below the club maybe 2006 or 7.
I've actually never been in that room, so I would probably say that it ended in 2009. You're right about that. And
I think it was like 2006 that they opened their doors for poker, because prior to that it was the Taj, and I had been to the Taj and not the Brigada.
Yeah.
My early trips to AC. Anyway, whole point was that we were our group was aging a little bit, so we could all go to AC now, and the Brigada then boomed. I mean, fucking boomed. You couldn't even stay there during tournament time a lot of the times without spending like $3,500 for the entire series to stay. And there was this window of time where like East Coast poker was so fucking good, but it was all allocated to the Northeast. Florida didn't exist yet. They still had the $100 limit cap or whatever. The Midwestern places like Cherokee and stuff like that, they weren't even thought of. I don't even know if they existed at that point in time. But like Foxwoods, Brigada, Turning Stone, this little pocketed area that were all like within a few hours driving distance from one another. Man, it was just so massive. I remember writing a blog in 2006 about a 2-5-10 game that I played. The blinds were 2-5, but the minimum bring-in was 10. So basically you weren't allowed to limp. And it was uncapped. And Al Crux ran the game. He was the local celebrity. He had made a deep run in the main event in, I think, Jamie Gold's year. Maybe a little bit prior to that. I don't remember. But he was a legend. A legend in the local Turning Stone stratosphere. So he would put this game on. It was just populated by all of these young online. Like I was the old guy at the table at 22, 23, you know? But it was like Bryn was there. Ike was there. I think Ike was there. I could be mistaken. this kid whose online name was Jerry with 3 R's, who was like really good back in the day, kind of fell off. I don't know what he's doing now. He was in the game, and there was just like all these legends. And I remember writing this blog from the vantage point of like, this is what Bobby's Room is going to look like in 15 years. Like this game is just going to be supplanted in Bobby's Room at 25x the stakes in 10 or 15 years. And a lot of that came true. But once I moved to Vegas and Black Friday happened and everything else, I feel like that area suffered the most. Foxwoods, like Foxwood and Mohegan, they're
a non-existent factor in poker.
They're just gone.
Yeah. That's just because so many places popped up that are just like easier to get to.
That's true.
I've actually never.
Well, Florida hurts them all a ton.
Yeah,
Foxwoods was impossible to get to.
I've actually never been to Foxwoods or Mohegan Sun.
I only went once,
and I've lived
maybe twice.
I lived probably like 3 hours, 2.5 hours away from there. But it was just easier to go to Atlantic City for me.
We would drive from when we went. We drove from Brent's house in Fillmore, New York, which is just south of Buffalo.
Okay.
I think it was like a 6-hour drive.
Yeah,
just miserable. But even if you flew in, you were looking at like a pretty long drive.
It was still like an hour and a half. From
even
airport.
AC is like difficult to get to. Like you have to fly to Philly and then take an hour drive.
This is just to go play cash, Matt?
No, we went for back when they had a 10K WPT there.
If you guys wanted to play cash, were there like underground games that you could play?
They had a lot of when tournaments. You followed tournament stops back then because the cash games would follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they usually spread 5-10, you would see like 25-50 running when tournaments were in town. Same thing with like Falls View, Turning Stone. All of these places like fell off, and for many, many, many years, I assumed that they weren't even running anything. It's good to hear that like the circuit now is there, and I think MSPT may make a stop there as well.
Yeah, it's like places like parks and stuff like that popping up really hurt everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
All these.
Like I remember coming up, they would run a series called the Empire State Championship, and the main event for that was huge. It would be like 100,000 to first.
I remember that. I think I came out for one of those.
Yeah,
when I was a young lad.
That's also where I met Alan Barry, legend of the game.
What a fucking legend!
Barry.
Legend on the phone calls. I don't even know about the game. My man fucking calls Berkey and just harasses him for about an hour straight about how he's just fucking a piece of shit or something. It's honestly the best fucking conversation I ever like just listened to in the background. Like I'm just sitting there. Sometimes we're on a car ride. He actually calls at the perfect fucking times. It's like we're on a car ride back from Big Bear.
This is great because I didn't even reply to this message because it threw me for such a loop. Nobody. I mean, you guys think Doug is mean to me. Like Alan has shit on me more than anybody I know.
Alan's the best.
And he's been out of poker for maybe 10 years now.
Just watches everything.
Nobody consumes more poker content than him.
Really?
I'm telling you, like we can wrap the show on this one, but he texted me 2 weeks ago because Dan O'Brien's getting married in May and he wanted to know if I was going to the wedding. And I said, of course. And we talked a little bit. Conversation ends. I wake up the next morning to a text from him. And it says, I want you to wake up to this message on a Sunday. Which, as I read that sentence, I'm just like, what horror is about to follow that I don't want to continue reading? I might have even like turned my phone off and closed my eyes again after reading that sentence. Like, I'm not ready for this yet. He then goes, I legitimately used to think you sucked at poker. And to be honest, I think when I truly thought about that, it was probably accurate. But after watching a lot of live streams that you happen to be on, I actually have changed my opinion. Happy Sunday.
Congratulations on being good.
That is such a backwards.
I never replied. I didn't know what to say to that.
You just kind of want to leave it there.
Just you know what? I'll take my win.
You should just pin it to the top of your conversation.
Right. Just reply with, you still suck.
Honestly, he's a goat.
Alan's such a legend. Looking forward to hanging out with him again. Well, I got to tell you, Jesse, I really appreciate you being here because these shows have turned into the Seinfeld of poker. They are shows about nothing but everything at the same time.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
And a lot about staking.
Yeah, indirectly, but you bring out the best in the conversation. Even Conrad talked today.
Well,
Conrad got live. I liked it. He got animated.
Sometimes we talk. Sometimes there's no need to talk.
Uh-huh.
I play my role. You know what I mean? If good conversation is going on, I don't need to interrupt.
That's exactly when you interrupt.
No, you're not saying anything.
All right.
By the way, shout out to Al Crux. Once you said his name, I was like, I know this guy. I got to look him up. He got 6th the year Raymer won the main event.
Yeah. Okay, so it was the Raymer year. I thought it was gold.
Also got 6th in the main event in 1990. He has 2 6th places in the main event.
I'm not getting 6th again.
There you- Big discrepancy in those payouts, I'm sure.
The 1990 one was for $58,000.
I was gonna say I'll take under 100K, Alex.
That's wild.
I'll confidently take under 100K. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be joined all week by Jesse. As you can see, LaManna is back in Pittsburgh, freezing his dick off, getting ready to watch some Pirate baseball.
Poor guy.
They won today. Skeens. Nice job on the bump.
Go Buccos.
Got a big win over the 5-1 Rays. So, Skeens is legit. We're here to stay. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel. At some point, I think this week, because I want to do it while Jesse's here, I think we're going to go over the list of the greatest televised hands ever played. I've been curating that list. I put it out on Twitter. So if you guys want to contribute to that, by all means, go over to that thread. Give us your best example of what you think one of the greatest hands ever played was. We'll cover a few of them, cover some of our favorites.
I have one in mind already.
All right, there you go. Maybe we'll do that on Friday. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you guys all then.
Later, squad.
Peace.